Good morning and welcome back. We are on to Chapter 11. Chapter 11 is called Crazy. Eric pulled the acoustic guitar close to his belly, leaned back on his bed, and strummed. He wasn't practicing anything in particular, just running through some songs. It was his way of checking out. He closed the bedroom door, disappeared into himself, and tried not to think. The guitar was his shield, the hard outer shell he needed, like the exoskeleton of some soft-bellied bug. Whenever Eric thought about his father, when he remembered things, it left him confused. He didn't want to remember, didn't want to feel this way, but the memories flooded in like a rising river, ruining everything. There they were. He could picture it. Rudy, just a baby, probably asleep. It was dark out, his parents at the kitchen table, Eric spooning a bowl of vanilla ice cream, and his father's voice loud and accusing. "Clear the table?" his father screamed. "I'll clear the table, just watch me. I can be really helpful around the house." He picked up plates and glasses and tossed them one by one in underhanded arcs toward the sink. There they crashed and shattered, his mother crying, pleading for Eric's father to stop, please. But the clatter continued until finally the dishes were cleared and a life splintered. His father walked out the door. Oh, the way his mother sagged to the floor. Eric could see it in his mind, as if a motion picture were projected against the inner walls of his skull. She leaned against the wall and her legs slid forward. She dropped down, slumped over, face splotchy with tears. Eric didn't dare move. He sat watching her while 1,000 small fish swam through his bloodstream. Then he finally climbed down to the floor and crawled to her and whispered, "It's okay, Mom. It's okay. Stop crying. I'll clean everything up." "He's sick," she murmured in answer, staring at nothing. "He's so sick." And rather than clean anything up, Eric bent his head toward her warm, soft lap and crashed. Just fell asleep right then and there, instantly. No, Eric hadn't told Griffin that story. Some stories you don't tell. You just keep them to yourself, locked away, and you run the guitar pick up and down across 6 strings, and you strum. Eric couldn't tell Griffin the whole story, the whole truth about his father, so it was a day of white lies, first to his mother, then to Griffin Connolly. It wasn't like Eric wanted to lie exactly. It was just that the truth was so inconvenient. To Eric's way of thinking, a good fiction was better than a hard fact. Everybody breathed easier, nobody got hurt, and you moved on to the next thing. Even if he wanted to, how could Eric tell Griffin about what really happened back in Ohio? The truth was a slippery bar of soap, something ungraspable, a thing Eric himself could never understand, much less tell. How do you say that your father has a mental illness? How do you say schizophrenia and not open a can of fresh wounds and questions? Schizophrenia was like a word from a bad horror movie, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Dad. But it didn't work like that. His father didn't act like two people, a good guy and a bad guy. It was trickier than that. His father was once the greatest guy in the world. But then slowly, over time, he wasn't anymore. He changed, got angry and confused, his own thoughts haunting him down. His father fell into dark moods, made unfounded accusations, said crazy things. And worse, he dropped into long, brooding silences, not speaking for days, a ghost walking around in Daddy's shoes. It was like he slowly vanished in front of Eric's eyes from the inside out, a hollow man, a sunken-eyed scarecrow. In that way, his father was like 2 men, the good guy and the sick one. For Eric to ever live a full life, he knew that he would have to love both men, the well and the ill. He couldn't pick one or the other. It had to be both, for they were 2 sides of one man, his father. How do you tell that story? How do you describe the years of living with that? The best thing, the thing that worked for a while anyway, was to pretend it wasn't happening. Repeat, "Dad's just fine." Keep saying it over and over, as if saying it enough might make it true. Eric was just a boy when things began to turn bad, soon after Rudy was born. On and off, in fits and spurts, the illness took hold, gripped his father like a snake in its coils, and squeezed. But nobody talked about it for a long time, each trying to not know, figuring that if they ignored it, maybe it would go away. Maybe Eric's real father would reappear one morning bright and chipper. "How you doing, sport?" Except it never happened. things only got worse, until they finally had to talk about it. Eric and his mom had to say the words nobody wanted to hear. "Your father is sick. He's been sick for a long time." Sick? Sick was a cold, an upset stomach, a fever you recovered from. This wasn't the body being sick, it was the brain being sick. This was, in his mother's words, mental illness. There were doctors, yes, and stays at hospitals, an ever-changing cocktail of little pills. The drugs helped in some ways, offered him some relief. But Eric could see the change in his father. The drugs drained him dry. His neck swelled up, his face twitched, he lost his spark. Eric's father complained about aches and sore parts. He once rubbed his chest and looked at Eric in wide-eyed alarm. "There's nothing there. There's nothing there," rubbing his chest over and over where the heartbeat should be. "I can't feel anything," he'd cried. But mostly, his father's essence had changed until it was as if his father on medication had no personality left. That was why, his mother explained, Eric's father stopped taking the doctor's pills. He felt like he was losing himself, slipping away, she tried to explain. And it was true. Eric could see that it was true. On medicine, his father didn't act crazy anymore, but in some ways it was worse. A part of him had died, the part Eric loved. His mother told Eric other things. "He still loves you. He'll always love you. He's suffering right now. He's confused. He's overwhelmed. There are voices in his head." She cried. She didn't want to cry in front of Eric. He could see that. His mother trying to be strong, but she couldn't be, not all the time. That was the other hard part. He couldn't lose her too, and now there was Rudy to worry about. It was scary, because his father was still around, drifting aimlessly from room to room. When things were okay, when Eric didn't think about it too much, he could sit quietly in the same room with his father and feel good. Pretend everything was okay. He still had a dad. Not just any dad, but his one and only. That guy over there, the innocent one with the gentle soul who loved trees and music and laughter and his two sons. That swell guy whose thoughts were eating him alive. Then some things happened, other memories now, the water of remembering rising ever higher. When Eric's father lost control, smashed a mirror and some lamps, ripped down the blinds off a bay window, and was gone the next morning before Eric awoke. And here was the truly shameful thing, the horror in Eric's heart. He was glad. Good riddance. Who needs to live with that? People can lose a leg. People can get their hands stuck in machines and have their fingers torn off. Terrible car accidents robbed people of their sight, their ability to walk, their dreams and hopes of a healthy future. But there was nothing worse, nothing on this earth, of that Eric was sure. Worse than losing your mind, your peace of mind, because that was like losing yourself. It was losing everything. His father was a walking absence, a faint duplicate, a watered-down version of his former self, without substance enough to cast a shadow. There was no way Eric could tell Griffin Connolly that story, so he told bits and pieces and white lies. Eric wondered if Griffin sensed it, the whole truth, if somehow Griffin already knew, saw into Eric's secret heart, and smiled. That's the end of chapter 11. Don't forget to answer your questions at the end, and we will talk to you guys soon. Have a great day.